more or less, right?
Yeah. So they did that show on Monday, and because I watched it, my feed has been getting all this stuff with the rapture in it, and I saw this as a commercial before a video I watched. So, and then I went and I looked it up and I pulled the trailer up. So I want to watch this trailer with you guys because this is amazing. You have no idea.
Aaron says, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not crazy. Well, maybe a little.
Well, your music taste anyways.
Oh gosh. Yeah. All right. So let's watch this trailer. This trailer looks awesome.
When the rapture occurs, the world will capture the moment. Cell phones, security cameras, law enforcement body cams, doorbell cams, and more will all bear video record of the great disappearance. The world will reel with concern from watching the strange, mind-boggling, and unbelievable video footage that goes viral across.
Now, one thing that Nick was saying on Meaning of Catholic is that for the most part, they believe that the people will disappear without their clothes, so the clothes will be left behind. But some people believe that the people will disappear without their blood, too.
What?
Yeah. So they should have made this video with bloody clothes just being left all over the place. But let's continue.
We're going to have to get into that after.
People vanish before their eyes, and all caught on camera. This event won't be science fiction, conspiracy theory, or mindless speculation. When Christ comes for his people, it will be in the twinkling of an eye. Between the resurrected dead and the raptured, billions of people will exit this planet.
Notice they went the easy way out of showing the people disappearing and not the resurrected dead.
I have so many things I want to point out about this.
In an instant, but billions will be left behind. It will be chaos on our globe, but incredible, glorious joy in the skies. This is the rapture, the great disappearance. It is vital to know what the Bible says about this coming day. The next event on God's prophetic agenda for the earth. Are you ready?
Wait a minute.
Tell me this doesn't look awesome. Like, this looks like an amazing movie.
Did every kid on that bus disappear?
Yeah,
was there not a single Catholic kid on that bus? Because we know they don't believe the Catholics will go. We know that.
That was a Christian private school and the children are innocent. So I think the funniest part of this is the obsession with that it's going to go viral. Right? It's like, all the cameras are going to catch it. It's going to go viral.
They're like, billions of people will disappear on Earth, and yet all the infrastructure needed to watch us on the web will somehow still just magically work.
It's so bananas.
Planes will fall out of the sky, but that person on that bike went missing, and that's what you'll care about.
See, but I almost think like the warning has a little bit of this flavor to it.
When you say that, are you calling it crazy?
I'm not. I'm saying it has like a little bit of that flavor to it. So look, the warning could definitely be a thing. I don't know. It
definitely has that dispensationalist vibe to it, though. You're right.
It seems like that, like when they say it's like every single person on Earth at the same time, time will stand still. So if you're on an airplane, time will just stop and the airplane will just freeze in midair, and everyone will have this illumination of conscience at the same moment. It just kind of has that air to it, and then a lot of the. You got to be careful with the Catholic prepping stuff, because a lot of these channels will make you think like you need to have like a shelter to get through like even the 3 days of darkness stuff. And that has a lot of the rapture feel to it. Like you'll be able to escape.
It's very materialistic and
yeah, you'll be able to escape the suffering that's coming because it has a very rapture feel to it. Like, so what the dispensationalists believe is that they are going to be raptured up before the Great Tribulation.
Yeah.
So if you hear Catholics telling you that this great event is coming and you need to have yourself a prepping shelter so that you can withstand these, Catholicism is supposed to be about embracing suffering and Not that we'll be raptured away from it. I would think. I mean, I'm not a theologian.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I stand in the 3 days of darkness. Like 90% sure it won't happen, but I have blessed candles.
I do too. But how do you light the blessed candles if only the blessed candles will light?
Not concerned about it. You know what I mean? Like, well, it either they'll light or they won't.
Or they won't.
And tomorrow I'll either die or I won't. So I better be prepared.
I'll tell you what got me a little freaked out about the 3 days of darkness was the Canadian wildfire stuff coming down. Because
you were freaked out.
Like, I can't breathe the air. Like, this is what they say about the 3 days of darkness. You're not going to be able to go outside. The air is going to be poison. You're going to have to tape your windows, and you can only light blessed candles. And when the whole New York City was orange, like legit orange, and people were coughing, you couldn't even breathe this stuff.
You know what the 3 days of darkness sounds like? Not just that, but just some of the like some of the Akita descriptions. It sounds like a super volcano explosion.
Well, like, what do you mean in Akita? Why they talk about? I know.
Don't they talk about fire?
The living will envy the dead.
Is it so?
We should read the Akita.
I think Akita talks about fire as opposed to like the flood, right?
Fire falling from the sky.
Yeah,
but I've always heard that. A lot of people say, "Well, God took the world the first time in a flood. The next time He'll take it in a fire." Right? He said because He promised He would never flood the world again.
Right. I'm looking through the Akita, the approved Akita visions to see if it says anything.
Yeah, so Royals fan says it says fire will fall from the sky.
Okay,
but it also says,
so it will be a punishment greater than the deluge, one such as one will never seen before. Fire will fall from the sky and will wipe out a great part of humanity, the good as well as the bad, sparing neither priests nor faithful. The survivors will find themselves so desolate that they will envy the dead.
Okay, you have to say something with that, because people that ask for God's intervention and they're like, God intervene, and you want and you're hoping that the Akita prophecies or Fatima prophecies come true. That's a scary thought. Nice. Yeah, that's a scary thought. To you have to really think about what it means. The living will envy the dead.
Fatima talking about nations disappearing from
completely annihilated, right? You have to really think about what that means. That means roaming bands of marauders kidnapping women. I mean, if you're in a position where they could come and take your wife and daughter, like, I don't want that to happen. That's crazy. You really have to look at it like, as bad as the situation is in the church, it's not preventing you from becoming a saint. So right. I know these things are very distressing in the church. They're very distressing, but hoping that God's chastisement comes you don't know what you're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scary thing. It really is. And somebody said, like, you have to be careful chasing doing apparition chasing. And it is the sin of curiosity. You get too caught up in curiosity and you lose focus on just becoming a saint. The Road. That was a good movie.
I've watched a part of it. I'm not big into too many movies like that.
Did you see the Book of Elijah? Or
yeah,
Book of Eli?
Book of Eli. That was a good one.
That was good.
It just sucked. It was a King James Bible.
It was a King James Bible, and the guy wanted it because he thought this is how you're going to control the people. There's no understanding of there being a church. There's no pope. There's no mass.
Right.
It's just the Bible. Oh wait, The Seventh Sign, Caitlin. I saw that movie growing up. That movie bugged me out. My mom made me watch that at like 9 years old. Did you ever see The Seventh Sign?
I'm not sure what's it about.
It's crazy Protestant mayhem.
Duh.
Crazy Protestant mayhem. My mom was so caught up in end time stuff. Listen to me. Growing up, before the year 2000, I think I've told you this, like before Y2K, my mom had the whole basement stocked with canned food. She thought the world was going to end in Y2K. It was crazy. And it actually affected my older brother, that when it didn't happen, my brother thought all of this stuff was nonsense. He really
Don,
did. He
you're
thought,
talking about Don, right?
my brother Dom, yeah.
So that's really affected his faith his whole life.
100%. When that stuff, my mom really, I mean, she was really caught up in Marian apparitions and things like that.
Right.
And she stocked the basement full of food. But when none of that happened, my brother kind of questioned everything. Then he went to college, and in Philosophy 101, they started doing situational ethics and challenging
Philosophy
every
101.
Yeah, Philosophy 101, they started challenging his, his ethics and morals. And
Philosophy 101 should be Aristotle's, divine mover and Aquinas's 5 ways and stuff like that.
It should be, but it's not. Max says Garabandal talks about a synod, so that's kind of strange, right?
I mean, synods have been really common throughout church history,
but it talks about a synod in a way as if,
right? It does seem really like familiar, right?
And the thing is, the word synod wasn't very common in the 70s when this happened.
No, because there hadn't been a synod for a long time.
Exactly. So, yeah, synods were always regional, not global.
Right. I mean, that's literally like a global synod doesn't make sense. That's called an ecumenical council.
Hey, Francis Ann says, I have blessed candles, but I usually end up using them when I camp overnight in a place with lots of bears. I just burn one all night in the entryway of my tent. I've had bears in the site sniffing around the tent, on the picnic table in my car, but not in it. Once a bear got in the car of the adjacent site, but that was because the people left the rear window open. So I bought a bunch of beeswax candles, and I had them blessed, and I have them at my house. And I asked my wife a couple weeks ago, I'm like, hey, where are those candles? She's like, I used them. Like, what do you mean you used them?
No, you've doomed us.
3 days of darkness is gonna come. My wife burned the candles around the house.
That would be typical woman. All of a sudden, light throughout the whole world gone, and you're like, Nicole, where are those blessed candles?
I bought these
burned
candles
them
just for this. She's the worst.
Well, it's like the tweet you said. You bought the light on the boat. You're like, I bought the new light for the boat so we could see in the dark. And then,
listen to me. I bought a flashlight at the camping store at the site, and I'm like, oh, we don't have light on the boat. So it's funny. It's a light switch that you turn on and it lights up. And I hand it to my wife. I'm like, we need this for tonight because we don't have a light. So it starts getting dark, and I'm like, why don't you go get the light so we can turn the light on? She goes, I can't find it. It's too dark. I'm like, Nicole, the irony.
I saw you tweet that, and I'm like, I read it to Hope. I'm like, Hope, just listen to this.
My wife. She's the best. Oh man, she makes me laugh, that woman. She is so funny. And then there was 2 others. Sorry. Did you want to do the Cardinals? Because everybody did the Strickland one. My mom said to call her when I'm done with the show. She must have watched the Shroud episode.
Call her now. Let's get her on the show. I'm serious. Put her on speaker.
No.
Just let her know.
I'll get her on one night.
Okay.
I'll get her on one night.
We all want Anne.
Everybody did the Bishop Schneider.
Hold on. We have a video we do need to play.
What's that? Oh, this is so great. This is so great.
Building, and you're going the wrong way. The exit's on your other side of the building. Like, we gave you the map.
This is our president.
You're going the wrong way. The exit's on your other side of the building. Like, we gave you the map.
Guys, it's the president of the United States. Doesn't know where he is.
Good thing he doesn't have access to nuclear. Oh, wait.
No, like legit.
Fire from the sky.
Doesn't know he's in the Capitol building. This is scary. He's not making the election.
Hasn't anyone told him he can get 22 years in prison for being in the Capitol building? It's funny, but it's really not funny. You know what I mean?
Like, those poor guys. But he's not making the election. There's no way. There's no way he can do a debate. I don't think there'll even be debates or anything.
Well, it doesn't matter anyways. Like,
I know.
Does anyone change their mind on stuff based on policy anymore.
What do you
I
think?
mean, you have 3/4 of the Republican Party willing to vote for someone who just never mind.
I was just about to ask you, what do you like? Like, it's funny because everybody says I can't vote Democrat because of their stance on abortion. That's the final. You can't, Father Altman. You cannot be Catholic and vote Democrat. So can you be Catholic and vote for Trump now that Trump came out for abortion? Essentially, he was the most pro-life president we ever had, is all you ever heard. And now all of a sudden he's like, well, I think DeSantis, he's crazy that he did a 6-week abortion ban.
Yeah.
Your whole presidency, the only lasting legacy you had were the judges you put in and that we overturned Roe v. Wade. That's the only lasting legacy from his presidency.
Those judges, for the most part, are terrible. Like, yeah, they overturned Roe v. Wade. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but other than that, they're useless.
Especially Roberts. It's really
now, to be fair, that was Bush.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying everybody thinks it's a 6-3 split. It's really a 5-4 split. Roberts is a liberal.
Yeah.
Like, he's a legit liberal. You have a 5-4 split, and even those conservatives, you have 2 good ones.
Thomas and Alito.
That's it.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas and Alito. Now, I know somebody who I shouldn't reveal that story.
What?
I know somebody that knows Thomas, and Clarence Thomas is a devout Catholic.
Yeah,
like a legit devout Catholic, and he's very concerned with what's,
every day with mass.
He's very concerned with what's going on in Rome. That's all I'll say.
Did you see the picture in the telegram?
No.
So, I made this upon request. So give me a second.
Oh, what, the situation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You did.
I saw it on Twitter, you jerk. I'm like, what? Why are we making pictures of Anthony looking gay? Come on. Are you kidding me? Yes,
Anthony, the situation here, guys.
I was going to die when I think it was Sean said when we were talking about the tin can crushing thing. And I'm like, I don't think I did that experiment in school. And Sean pops in right away. Anthony didn't make it that far in school.
I wanted to say something too, but I'm like, no, I shouldn't. Do you know how many thousands of photos I had to look through on your wife's Facebook for that one? For any that worked for that photo?
So what did you do? You superimposed my face on a photo of the situation?
Yep. If you notice you were skiing, there's snow in your hair.
Frosted hair. Oh, man. I'm going to tell my wife to block you on Facebook.
It's probably a smart move, to be fair, to be honest.
The one time you took a picture thinking it was me, it was the kid my wife's cousin that I fought.
That just a few days before.
It was like I had a fight with my wife's cousin, broke my hand, and Rob takes a picture of Nicole's Facebook and puts it up thinking it's me, and it's the kid that I just
like
fought.
You from 20 years ago. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. All right, so everybody did the Schneider thing, right? Where Schneider actually talked about Altman's position. And yes. I have to say, I agree with Schneider.
I agree too.
That's Father Isaac's position too.
Isaac, it's even, I don't know. Father Mosley just thinks he just says it's not for him to say one way or the other.
Right. And I think that's the position most of us need to take. It's just you have no authority to make that call.
Right.
I mean, it's just not. Everything's in God's hands. It doesn't matter what you think.
And the thing is, like, no one even, the one authority that might exist, other than a future pope, would maybe be an ecumenical council. But even then, they're not really sure. You know what I mean?
Well, he was saying even like the cardinals, like even the curia couldn't depose the pope. No one can judge the pope.
Right. In previous cases, like the Western Schism, they had to have 3 of the 3 reigning popes all resigned, and then a new one was elected.
Yeah.
It wasn't the curia coming together to say, this is who we've elected, now you're all screwed. No, they waited for all 3 of those supposed popes to resign.
Now, I do think the curia can put pressure on the pope. They may not be able to depose him. I think a king could have deposed the pope, right?
No, that's kind of the the Caesaropapism of the East, right? The emperor did depose popes illegally and then install anti-popes, but
Oh yeah, yeah, and I know that was the plot of the Borgias.
that stupid show.
That stupid show, and it was Della Rovere was trying to get the King of France to depose.
Right. I mean, that was tried, and there were some theories upon that and stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I'm not. First off, we've never gotten more. First off, Rob and I never get hate, ever, like ever. Me and Rob never get
it.
We just don't get hate in the comments. Like for the most part, anybody that watches our show enjoys it. There might be something that somebody disagrees with us on, but they're always charitable to us. That Altman video, where all I said was I wasn't crazy about how he handled being in front of a crowd like that, and I thought it's a little dangerous to amp a crowd like that up on something like saying this bishop, God damns you. I don't even like that language. I don't like that language by singling someone out like that. That's not any of our place to do that. You can talk generalities. I agree with him saying like what he's saying. I mean, that is God's judgment will come down on them. But I just had a hard time with the way it was handled. So I didn't say anything about his positions. I just said I thought that was a little dicey to do that in front of a crowd. And we got bombarded by people making it like we were bashing Altman. And I wasn't. I don't know. I guess
we were taking a really like boring, beige, middle of the road position. Like that's what we should have been excoriated for instead.
Right? It's funny. People got so mad. And I think a lot of it would be older Catholics, right? I think Altman has a lot of older Novus Ordo type Catholics.
I was going to say, I don't want to make any generalizations, but it does seem to be, like you said, the older conservative Novus Ordo Catholic. I mean, for instance, I have an aunt who's she's older boomer generation conservative Novus Ordo Catholic, will not go to the traditional Latin Mass. I wouldn't say she hates it. She just would never go to it. And yet she believes Altman will be probably a future saint.
So I think a lot of that has to do with his position on politics.
Right.
I think they all fell in love with him when he came out and said, you can't be Catholic and vote Democrat.
Yep.
I think that's where that comes from. And even still, I'm not criticizing Altman. I just think it's not our place to make the declarations that he's making. And I think that we all need to have a little humility about what's going on and just let God do his thing. God knows exactly what's happening in his church. I know it's confusing. I know it's crazy right now. But I agree with Schneider's take on it. And we're interviewing Schneider. And I'm so glad
Saturday.
he addressed
As long as he doesn't have to go to Africa again or something, it should be Saturday morning.
So I'm excited that he did this beforehand, because now that's a little in for me to
remember. It is officially about his catechism.
I know it's officially about his catechism, but I know you know me, and I'm not sticking to catechism questions. Luckily, Rob read through the catechism, so Rob has a list of questions.
Not the whole thing, but
you sent me a list of questions that I will get to. But I mean, we need this interview to.
Well, I'm telling you, there is enough controversial stuff in this catechism. You could tie all of this to the catechism, the Latin Mass, the vaccines, evolution. Social media.
He talks about obeying certain bishops and stuff, right?
Yeah, all of it.
Where's the catechism on Crocs? I think Rob's giving the Crocs up, right?
I had to, but my feet were just
so bad.
So bad.
They're terrible. They're terrible for your feet, man.
They really are. So I don't have that article you're talking about. Not in WhatsApp. You might have texted it.
Cause it. There are times Rob has to keep Anthony on a leash. I know everybody thinks that. There are times I have to keep Rob on a leash. Everybody thinks Anthony's the bad guy. Okay, so wait, all right. So there was two things. The Cardinal Sarah one. Where did I send that?
Aaron, we are talking about. It's not labeled as a catechism. That's what it is. But Schneider is releasing a work called Credo, which is Latin for creed. It's called something Credo, like a compendium of the Catholic faith. It's a question and answer format similar to the Baltimore Catechism or the Catechism of Pius X, but it's with all the updated issues, social media use, vaccines, Latin mass restrictions, everything basically.
Yes. Okay. So I sent you the Cardinal Sarah article, but I want to find the tweet that highlighted the important part. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, sorry guys. Let me see.
So I know we had talked about
Okay, I got it.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so important new article from Cardinal Sarah. So this is quoting Cardinal Sarah. It is profoundly to be regretted that the motu proprio Traditionis Custodes and the related responsa ad dubia on December 4th, 2021, perceived as acts of liturgical aggression by many, seem to have damaged this peace and may even pose a threat to the Church's unity. If there is a revival of the post-concilial liturgy wars, or if people simply go elsewhere to find the old liturgy, these measures will have backfired badly. It is too early to make a thorough assessment of the motivations behind them, or of their ultimate impact, but it is nevertheless difficult to conclude that Pope Benedict XVI was wrong when in asserting that the older liturgical forms cannot be all of a sudden entirely forbidden or even considered harmful, particularly when their unfettered celebration has manifestly brought forth good fruits. So it's about time he starts. I mean, he was the prefect for the Congregation of Divine Worship.
Right. He was there was two
CDW. Spot. He was the head of the CDW, and he was removed for Roche, for Cardinal Roche.
Wait, no. Wait, was he CDW or was he CDF?
No, he was CDW. He was
CDW.
Cardinal Sarah was the head of the Congregation for Divine Worship.
Yeah, and Roche is there now.
And Roche replaced him. And Roche is the one that came out with Traditionis Custodes, and he's the one who's putting all these restrictions on. Yeah. It is about time Cardinal Sarah spoke up, because he spoke up while Benedict was still alive during the last synod it was about married priests. Him and Benedict released
the
that
one
book.
that Africa basically jettisoned.
Yeah, so it was he spoke up, and then it caused a big stir because Benedict signed his name on it, and then it came out that Benedict didn't know that's what he was doing and all this stuff. But especially when it comes to stuff like liturgy stuff, because I remember Cardinal Sarah actually had said a few years back, while he was still at the CDW, he encouraged priests during Easter, or it was maybe Advent, he encouraged priests to turn to the East and celebrate Mass ad Orientem. Mm-hmm. And Francis rebuked him publicly and said, no, that is not the norm. It's crazy that these guys get so bent out of shape about even ad Orientem.
It is just ridiculous.
It's part of the disorientation, though. Like you bringing that up was such a powerful thing, saying how we face the Orient and the fact that versus populum is disorienting. Like in its nature is disorienting, because you're no longer facing the Orient, which is why it's called ad Orientem. Did Cardinal Sarah say only a demon would suppress the TLM? I don't know. I don't know if he said that. What? African bishops can be freaks, though, and have been. There are a few.
Like what's his name from South Africa?
he's one of Francis's guys. He sends them to the UN all the time.
I've gotten into arguments with him on Twitter. Like, who is
Really?
this? Yeah.
Let me see if there's anything else in here. One of the unnoticed but important contributions of Joseph Ratzinger's The Spirit of the Liturgy is its reflection on authority, specifically papal authority in the sacred liturgy, noting that the Western liturgy is something that, borrowing the words of J.A. Jungmann has come to be that is an organic growth, not a specially contrived production, something organic that grows and whose laws of growth determine the possibilities of further development. Cardinal Ratzinger observes that in modern times, the more vigorously the Petrine primacy was displayed, the more the question came up about the extent of the limits of his authority, which of course had never been considered. After the Second Vatican Council, the impression arose that the Pope really could do anything in liturgical matters, especially if he were acting on the mandate of an ecumenical council. Eventually, the idea of the givenness of the liturgy, the fact that one cannot do with it what one will, faded from the public consciousness of the West. In fact, the First Vatican Council had in no way defined the Pope as an absolute monarch. On the contrary, it presented him as the guarantor of obedience to the revealed word. The Pope's authority is bound to the tradition of faith, and that also applies to the liturgy. It is not manufactured by the authorities. Even the Pope can only be a humble servant of its lawful development and abiding integrity and identity. The authority of the Pope is not unlimited. It is at the service of sacred tradition.
One of the Pope's official titles, even under Francis, he didn't get rid of this one, is the servant of the servants of God.
Yeah.
Not the oppressor of the servants of God.
Oh man, and that's what we have right now. It's like it's the guardians of tradition. It's something crazy. They're playing with the wording of things.
Well, like Ryan Grant says, you could easily just as translate. And Ryan Grant, for those who don't know, is an expert in Church Latin. He says you can just as easily translate that as the jailers of tradition.
Yeah, the jailers. Custodians of tradition, right? It's a scary thing, man. I wonder where this all goes. Because we've been hearing for years, Francis has ill health, but he's sharp. He's still giving those off the cuff interviews. He's not Joe Biden.
True, but just because he doesn't have dementia doesn't mean he's healthy either. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? Who knows how much time he has left? We have to deal with it either way.
Yeah, and we're coming up on October, so we'll see how this goes. And then there was one other thing we wanted to talk about, which was that they are.
Ooh, Aaron's got a spicy. Spicy taste for a take for
outside perspective. Here. If the source and summit of the Catholic faith is a sacrifice, and if priests are actually priests, then ad orientem makes perfect sense. Yeah. So the priest is standing in persona Christi. So when we're at Mass, the reason the priest faces the altar and not the people is because we are all praying to God, and you have to see it almost like he is leading us into battle, right? He's the commander in chief of the people, and he is going and offering sacrifice to the Father, and we all follow him in this act. And it's not that his back is toward us, that we all face God.
He's doing it on our behalf.
Yeah.
That's what people like Francis and like those who design the Novus Ordo liturgy don't realize is like Protestants like Aaron would take us more seriously if we acted like we believe the things we say we believe.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I went to a Cursillo early on in my conversion. You ever do that?
A what?
A Cursillo.
What's that?
So it's a retreat that you go on. It's typically one where you would want to send somebody who's maybe having a hard go at things and is open to God, right? But
Okay.
I had already had my conversion. I'd already discovered Scott Hahn at this point. I knew way too much about my faith to really go on this trip. This is one where you want to kind of, if you know anybody that's in a spot in their life where you think they would be open to an experience of God, this is a very emotional retreat.
Like if someone has just hit rock bottom and they need something to pick them
They're
back
seeking
up.
God.
Right.
They're seeking God. They're in a position where they're seeking Him, but don't know much about their faith. This is a great retreat for a scenario like that. I had known way too much at this point, but it was the only retreat around, and you can't go just on your own. You have to have been somebody that went, and you send someone else. So my uncle had gone early on in his conversion, and he signed me up for this. So when I went, it was a very emotional experience. Everybody's crying and the whole nine, and some of the other guys, they were reading Richard Rohr and being
meanwhile Anthony's going down his list like, no, you can't cry for that. Nope, you can't cry for that. That one's not allowed.
I did not have a great experience at that retreat, but so I would not suggest it to anybody who knows their faith well, but it can be beneficial to somebody who's seeking something. But the one great thing I did get from it, because this is very early on in my conversion, and I never understood the idea of ad orientem or anything. The priest actually turned the mass around for us. And he explained to us, he said, we used to celebrate the mass this way, and this is why. And he explained all that to us. And he said, it's not that my back is to you, men. It's that we're all going to offer sacrifice to God. And I am your leader, and I am offering it to God on your behalf. And that's how he explained it to us. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, why don't we do this? And why not, when you do it, explain why you do it so that people actually understand the meaning behind doing it? Because the idea that so many people even thought that it was the priest with his back to us shows you the lack of catechesis there was before the liturgical changes.
Yeah. It's like he might have his back to you, but he has his face towards God. Which one's more important?
And it's not just that. When you see the priest at a Latin mass, when you see the priest hold the Eucharist up at the foot of the cross, so you're seeing the host being raised up to the cross. So now you see it as you look up, and you're not supposed to. A lot of people bow their heads and close their eyes when the priest raises it. You're not supposed to do that. You can, after he brings it down, you can bow your head in reverence.
Generally, you bow when he does his first genuflection. Then you raise your head and look as he does the elevation. Then you bow when he genuflects again.
So the reason you look when he does the genuflection, when he raises the host, is you are supposed to say the words that doubting Thomas said, my Lord and my God.
My God. Yep.
And you're supposed to actually see, wow, my Lord and my God is held up in that host.
Yep.
And this priest explained all this to us that weekend. It was just such a beautiful thing, but it shows you that the fact that people actually thought it was the priest with his back to him, and the fact that people were saying, oh, now I can finally understand mass, shows you that, because my priest at my parish that does both forms really explained that the enrichment that you got from having mass at a Novus Ordo parish, it's not like the Novus Ordo enriched the Latin Mass, but what happened was when they took the Latin Mass away, he said there was never this fervor and love for the traditional Latin Mass. That's why the traditional movement was so small. Think about it. Like, you even listen to Michael Matt when he talks about it. He's like, guys, in the 70s, there was 100 of us.
Yeah.
There was nobody. The people that were really affected by losing it just left the church and just stopped going. And then everybody else was all caught up in the revolution and couldn't wait to go to this new cool thing and singing their 70s songs. So it was a very small movement, the traditional movement back then. But what happens is they removed it for 2 generations, and then our generation caught a glimpse of this transcendent ritual. And it led to everybody going, man, when you go to a traditional mass now, everybody's got a missal out. Everybody's following along. I mean, you talk about active participation. I actively participated in a Latin Mass more than I ever did at Novus Ordo.
I actively participate in my Novus Ordo by reading my TLM Missal.
So it just goes to show you, though. But it made it so that the people that are going to the traditional Mass now are actually learning why they're there, and they're reading the readings, and they're learning the movements of the priest. And it's not this so now you have this love for this thing because if it was taken away.
Yeah.
If it was never taken away, who knows if there would, it got stale to the modern man. It got stale.
I think that's partly true. Like it's they didn't appreciate what they had, but I think also they were, for the most part, like it's not, when you say that they thought the priest had their back to them, for the most part, I don't think they actually thought that until they were told that's what it was during the transition. I think for the most part, they were lied to, by the revolutionaries.
I think there was a terrible lack of catechesis, first off, but I think I've said it before. My mom will say things to me that are kind of just repeating all the taglines you hear from the opponents of it. And she'll say, no, we didn't even know what was going on back then. Like, we didn't understand any of it. But I don't know if that's the case, or if because she was so young. I mean, my mom was 15 when the mass changed, 13 when the mass changed. She was, when you're 13, you're not paying attention to mass anyway. And I mean, I guess she made her sacraments. She made her first communion in the old rite.
Yeah.
Right. She had to, but they just heard the propaganda that came out of it. And I think they all just picked up on it and internalized it. It got stale. Sounds like divorce talk.
Well, that's allowed now too. Didn't you know that?
Aaron, wait, who wrote that? Because I see Margot.
Margot says he's got to try a TLM.
Oh, he's only been to a
Aaron
Novus Ordo.
says he went to one Novus Ordo with Keith. Was very, very reverent. He feels bad for those who have to put up with silly nonsense.
Aaron, if you ever get a chance, it's okay. So even if you go just to appreciate witnessing a ritual that has been going on for over 1,000 years. I mean, slight deviations, but for the most part, the heart of the ritual itself has been going on for 1,500, 1,600 years. And you're seeing this ancient ritual that was passed down from the apostles. It's an apostolic liturgy.
The Roman canon, they're pretty sure was at least begun to be written by St. Peter.
First century by St. Peter.
It was finished by Gregory the Great, 600.
You're talking about when Paul talks about hold fast to the traditions, whether written down by an epistle or by word of mouth. What Paul does as he's going around and preaching to the Gentiles, he goes into a community, sets it up. He doesn't just preach, he teaches them the ritual.
The liturgy. Yeah.
The liturgy is what he's teaching them. And that's how you embody the Christian faith. So he goes, lays his hands on somebody, and back in the early church, the miraculous was everywhere. So he would lay his hands on a bishop and they would get the gift of prophecy.
The miracle was sharing, Anthony.
Yeah. But they would get the gift of prophecy where they would actually get the knowledge infused into their minds. So he would set up the liturgy for them and teach them how to practice this liturgy. And that is what develops over time. And it starts off as an acorn, or it starts off as the mustard seed, right? That's the parable of the mustard seed. And over time, it develops into the greatest tree in the garden.
So
yeah, the second one I went to was a TLM.
After our episode with Keith.
I finally watched the show. Hilarious watching you guys talk about me. People calling. Oh man, it's funny that you'll hear people say that the Novus Ordo, the apostles would recognize the Novus Ordo more than they would recognize. It's just such a silly.
Yeah, you can't help but just kind of laugh at that, right? Like you can't have a discussion with someone that believes that.
Aaron, it's funny that you're saying that because I didn't know you were the friend he was taking to the Latin Mass.
Yeah, we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, at the time, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't find that out till later on. That's pretty funny. So Nick Fernandez says the Novus Ordo was designed to conceal those elements displeasing to Protestants, namely sacrificing the real presence. When compared to the TLM, it does this well. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I because a lot of people that are still going to the Novus Ordo are just going because that's the mass they have available. I mean, Rob still has to go. It's hard when you got to make a 2-hour drive to go to a Latin mass. It's just not, the way they set things up, it's just not easy.
It's especially hard when, like, it's not just the mass, right? Because I have 3 kids. I love the faith and love learning about the faith and love teaching it to others. Like, I want my family to be involved in a community. Well, it's hard to do that in our local parishes when they're largely boomer, Novus Ordo.
Yeah.
Like, we're the only young family in our parish.
Yeah.
Right. So not only do I have that gulf between trad and Novus Ordo, but there's also just that age gap, and these are the type of people that think we're crazy for having 3 kids, let alone wanting more. So like, there's that gulf, but then like, I can't have a community with the parish that's 2 hours away.
2 hours away.
How do I get there on a weeknight? How do my kids get there on a weeknight?
Yeah. How do you have a men's group with those guys? They're so far away. That's the same challenge I face, right? So after mass, it's usually me, Don, and Tom. We'll talk for a few minutes outside, but I don't really know everybody at the parish because the parish is 45 minutes away, and my wife's usually in a rush to go and do something because we have an hour ride home, and it is difficult with those faraway parishes. It's hard to like lay down roots, and I'm bouncing between 2 parishes because one of them's 20 minutes away and it's every other Sunday. So I'm at 2 different places. It really is difficult. You guys don't realize this is my Catholic community.
After mass, Anthony takes off ASAP.
I do not. He's so bullish. We talk for a few minutes. There's like, if they're doing something afterward, like me and Don stayed for breakfast at our priest. He had like a birthday breakfast or something, so we stayed and hung out and talked. But it's rough, especially. I mean, if I go alone, I'll stay for an hour afterward. It's my wife and my teenage kids want to go. They want to leave. They want nothing to do with it. Yeah, me too, Nick. So I have 3 parishes within driving distance. I wonder how people are handling Traditionis. I wonder how many dioceses you see that. I think a large majority of bishops ignored it.
I mean, that's another thing. Like, how much effort do we as a family put into trying to integrate ourselves into a parish 2 hours away when our TLM parish now only has 1 year of a 2-year dispensation left?
Yeah.
What happens in a year? Does it exist?
Yeah. Well, I think if your local parish is a bearable liturgy and they're good people there and the priest is somebody you trust, I mean, more can you ask for now?
Yeah. Yeah, except, we're the weirdos that kneel for communion and don't shake hands. And
I know. Believe me, I'm in the same boat when I go. I go to Novus Ordo, but I still go. Like, if I need to go to confession, I don't go. I go to confession at my local Novus Ordo parish.
I've never had a trad confession.
Really?
The one time, so our TLM parish, that mass is at 1 p.m. and the priest that offers it has his own separate parish half an hour away. So he's rushing there after 2 Novus Ordo masses at his own parish. So he can't offer confession beforehand. So, yeah. So.
Wow. Yeah. Because, a traditional confession is, it's getting absolution is an experience. Because the priest is praying over you while you say your act of confession, act of contrition, right? He's almost not listening to your act of contrition. He's just praying in Latin really fast. And then you hear the Te absolvo, you hear it at the end.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, but you usually get a better penance. You get a unique penance.
Like this last weekend. So our local parish, which is just 2 minutes down the road, that mass is at 8 a.m. confession starts at 7:30. We often don't make it to that mass because of the kids, right? It's hard to get up that early. So there's another parish, another Novus Ordo parish half an hour away that advertises confessions half an hour before mass. That's at 10:30. So we wanted to go to confession, so we couldn't go to the TLM. So we decided to drive to that one. We get there, no confession.
I just bailed on you.
Yeah. Frustrating.
Yeah, every once in a while they'll have confession during mass at St. Rocco's, and that's amazing.
St. Rock, is that the diocesan or the SSB?
The diocesan at St. Rocco's, they have confession during mass at
Good night, Aaron.
At Holy Innocents almost every time, but at St. Rocco's, if there's an extra priest, he'll jump in the confessional and he'll hear confessions right up to communion. So the thing is, a lot of people can't make it to that Saturday 4 o'clock to 4:30 confession. Like, I mean, that's when they offer it, Saturday 4 o'clock to 4:30. So a lot of people can't make it in that half an hour.
7-minute warning, 6-minute warning now.
Should we do what we usually do?
No, they know by now.
Yeah, that bit's gonna get old. All right, let's wrap this one up. We didn't get to the FDA is debating artificial wombs. That was one of the stories I wanted to cover.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's just more debauchery going on in the world. That's all.
Yeah. So Thursday, the next Shroud episode.
Thursday?
So that's Dr. Gilbert Lavoie. We're going to be going over his book. He talks, his book touches on a lot of the scientific aspects, including kind of what you were hinting at with the no gravity.
Yeah.
He doesn't, it's not that there was no gravity. It's that this image, the blood stains show a man laying down. The image, though, was made when the man was upright, but because his feet are crossed, the man was not standing. So he was upright, levitating off the ground.
And the cloth itself was pulled taut. There's no wrinkles in it and wrapped around them.
It's wrapped around, it's folded, wrapped around the body.
Yeah, there's some interesting things there. I wanted to get, Barry didn't want to talk speculation. I want to talk speculation with
there's not, I mean, if we go by the book, there's not a lot of, like, he's able to prove all this stuff. He does so with pictures and evidence in the book.
Yeah.
But then the second half of the book, he goes deep into the Gospel of John, showing how John, more or less throughout his gospel, tells us that he has the Shroud of Turin.
Wow. Really?
He couldn't say that, of course, because images of God are strictly forbidden in Judaism. But he, throughout the gospel, especially towards the end, he's telling you about the shroud, and that's what most of the book is about. So it's going to be really cool.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh, that's unique.
It is. Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, so that's Thursday. So we'll do the same thing with him. We'll keep him for YouTube, and then we'll jump over here and do a second half over here, and then I'll look and see if there's any good clips to throw on YouTube from this show, and we'll throw those up on YouTube.
Saturday is
Saturday is Strickland.
No, Schneider.
I mean Schneider. I don't know why I always mix them up.
So we're now after the point. We probably could do it live, but I think they still want it recorded. So we'll record it and then release it when they want us to.
When did they say we could release it?
I want to say it was after the 23rd.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Let's see if they even let us release it after the questions I ask.
Oh, gosh.
I'm going to ask some spicy questions. I'm going to think about them.
Let's do it to where they're at the end and we can cut them off if need be. I don't want them interspersed throughout. Let's do the book so we have something we can release. And
what
then
do you guys think? Should I take Rob's advice here?
Screw this. Sorry, guys. Just can't deal with him. Oh, he gets to be so much sometimes.
You guys think I should take Rob's advice? All right. Everybody says, listen to Rob, Anthony. Listen to Rob. I don't know. Now you guys are almost challenging me.
Yeah, come
Now
on,
you're
guys.
almost
You
challenging
should have
me.
seen this coming.
You guys are like daring me. I don't know. I'm gonna
The
go right in
situation
with-
does what he wants.
Come on, Bishop Schneider. Tell us the truth. Francis isn't Catholic. What do we call him? Your Excellency?
Your Excellency. In Anglo speaking, like in England,
Grace.
they'll say your Grace, so we could probably call him that too. Because I'm gonna screw up the word excellency. Well, you know, you try to say it
You should
fast
call him
and naturally.
Nicaraguan.
Nicaragua.
Nicaraguan. All right.
Guadalamada.
I'll go Guatemala. I'll come up with some good questions for him. I will. I'll save a spicy one for the end, right at the end of the interview.
The
I'll say,
spicy meatball.
all right, Bishop. All this sweet talk is. Let's get to the heart of the matter. When are you going to deliver that? Oh, what was it called? What were they going to do? What was that thing that the four bishops were going to give him? Yeah, what were they going to send him? Not the doobie. They sent that. They said the fraternal correction. Bishop Schneider, when's the fraternal correction coming?
Bishop Schneider, how do we make you pope? He'd be a better pope than Sarah, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely. He's the only one that could truly be a good pope.
I think so. Mostly because I think he's a saint. Like, honestly.
Yeah. I think Sarah is too, though.
I could see that. He definitely
Sarah
has a holiness to him.
Oh, he's a holy guy. He really is. I think he's very careful about how he goes about things, and I think he takes obedience very seriously. But I think he's a very holy man, Sarah. Max says Altman is a saint. Okay, time to wrap it up, guys. Let's,
Okay, yeah, we got 20 seconds left, so.
Wait, should we tell that last story?
Meant to click that.